Hello, dear friends. According to a recent poll from the Wall Street Journal, 63% of voters have a negative view of the Democratic Party. This is their worst result since 1990. Let's break down how and why this happened. Such a low level of trust indicates not just temporary difficulties, but a deep identity crisis and voter disillusionment. This means the negative perception goes beyond simple disagreement with President Biden's policies and concerns the Democratic Party brand as a whole. At the same time, it's worth noting that the Republican Party also has high negative ratings, around 55 to 58% depending on the poll. The last time the Democratic Party had ratings as low as they do now was back in 1994, under the presidency of Bill Clinton. At that time, this was mainly due to the failure of healthcare reform. Republicans, through a massive advertising campaign, successfully defeated it by portraying the reform as a socialist takeover of medicine by the state that would destroy patient choice and lead to massive wait times. As a result, the reform failed in Congress, and Democrats became associated with an inefficient, cumbersome, and overly liberal government trying to interfere in citizens' lives. Also, under President Bill Clinton, there was a very unpopular economic policy. In 1993, Clinton signed a budget that included tax increases, primarily for high-income Americans, but also a small tax on gasoline that affected everyone. Although this step helped reduce the budget deficit and laid the groundwork for the economic boom of the late 90s, in the short term, the political message was devastating. The Democrats came to power and raised your taxes. Republicans successfully used this to mobilize voters. Many parallels can be drawn between those times and the present. The current collapse in the Democrats' ratings is linked to their perceived failures in the economy, foreign policy, and on the issues of immigration and border security. The economy is the Democrats' main weakness. Despite low unemployment and slowing inflation, voters are feeling the high cost of living. The administration's attempt to frame the economic situation as a success has failed. People do not feel an improvement in their wallets. Prices for gasoline, groceries, and housing remain high compared to the pre-COVID period. Republicans are successfully promoting the narrative that Democratic policies, large government spending, have led to inflation, and voters agree. Immigration is the second huge problem for the Democrats. The situation at the southern U.S. border is perceived by many as chaos. The arrival of a large number of migrants in major cities run by Democrats, New York, Chicago, is creating a huge burden on social services and causing dissatisfaction even among traditionally Democratic voters. Republicans are effectively using images of an open border, which resonates with voters concerned about national security and the rule of law. In foreign policy, the situation is more complex, but overall trust also leans towards the Republicans. The war in Ukraine, the conflict in the Middle East, tensions with China, and the chaotic withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan have created an image that the world has become more dangerous under President Biden. Although Biden is not solely to blame for many of these problems, the withdrawal from Afghanistan was agreed upon during Donald Trump's term, and the war in Ukraine was caused by the policies of Europe and previous U.S. presidents who acted indecisively and tried to appease Vladimir Putin during the annexation of territories in 2014, thereby giving him the opportunity to try to pull the entire country into his orbit of influence. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, despite his unpredictable policies, promotes an image of a strong leader who can restore order. This appeals to voters tired of global instability. The only areas where Democrats prevail are healthcare and vaccination policy. Healthcare is perhaps the Democrats' most potent weapon. After the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, which guaranteed a federal right to abortion, this issue became extremely important for many voters, especially women and young people. Democrats are successfully using this, portraying Republicans as extremists who are infringing on women's rights. In vaccination policy, Democrats also have strong support. Although the urgency of this issue has faded since the pandemic, it still reflects a broader divide. Democrats are associated with trust in science and institutions, which appeals to educated voters in cities and suburbs. However, It must be said that while the Republican Party also has high negative ratings of around 55 to 58%, the Democrats' 63% is significantly worse. Here, the Donald Trump factor is undoubtedly the main reason. Trump is the most polarizing figure in modern American history. His aggressive, often offensive communication style and constant attacks on opponents, the media, and state institutions alienate moderate voters, especially suburban women, a key demographic group. The numerous legal cases against him, from financial fraud to accusations of mishandling classified documents, create an image of corruption and lawlessness. For many voters, this is a red line. Trump is an incredibly powerful motivator not only for his supporters but also for his opponents. Many people vote for Democrats not because they like their policies, but because they are terrified of Trump's return to power. So, as we see now, the political situation is complex, an era of deep polarization and mutual distrust. The U.S. political landscape in 2024 is defined not by a battle of popular ideas, but by a choice of the lesser of two evils for the majority of voters. Both leading parties, Democratic and Republican, have historically low approval ratings, which indicates a deep disillusionment of American society with the political class. The Democratic Party has become severely detached from its voters and no longer understands them, focusing too much on left-wing views while ignoring what truly concerns people right now. Democrats have lost trust on the issues that matter most to voters: the economy, the perception of a high cost of living, despite positive macroeconomic indicators, and immigration, a sense of chaos at the border. Their brand is associated with excessive liberalism on cultural issues, which alienates moderates and the working class. Their only powerful asset remains the defense of abortion rights, which mobilizes their base and suburban women. The Republican Party is a hostage to Trump. Republicans, while winning on trust regarding the economy and security, suffer from the toxicity of their leader. Donald Trump and his MAGA movement are associated with chaos, a threat to democratic institutions, the January 6 Capitol storming, and extremism. Their hardline stance on abortion is extremely unpopular with the majority of Americans. The party appears fractured and incapable of effective governance. There is an erosion of the center. The political center in America has virtually disappeared. Both parties are focused on mobilizing their core electorates, leaving a small group of independent voters in a few key states to decide the fate of the entire country. The U.S. political system is not dying, it is suffering from the short-sightedness of its own leaders. Both parties have bet on their most radical supporters, ignoring the quiet but increasingly disillusioned center. They are fighting a fierce battle on their ideological flanks, forgetting that elections are won in the middle. This is a dead end. The future belongs to the leader or party who first realizes that true strength lies not in mobilizing a small group of fanatics, but in building a broad coalition of trust that unites Americans with different views. Stay strong. All the best to everyone. Goodbye.